What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and you're listening to Mike on the Mic, everything sports related podcast. I'm sitting here today with Chicago Bears legend, Georgia Bulldog, my boy, Tim Jennings. Tim, how you doing, man? How's everything going on in life?
Hey, Mike, man, everything's good, man. Appreciate you having me on, bro.
Man, it's a blessing, man. It's a real honor to have you on here. Not to get all corny with you, but growing up, man, you were one of my biggest influences, one of the craziest guys I ever seen play for the Bears. Them monsters of the midways, them early 2000s, man. It's crazy to even be talking to you right now. But I just want to ask you, with the retirement and everything since 2015, like what you've been on, what you've been doing with the pandemic, how's everything been going?
Well, to be honest with you, Mike, man, um, since I retired, bro, I mean, just take a guess, man. Let me ask you, what you think I've been doing since I've been retired from football? Take a guess.
Man, just
What do
hanging
we
out,
retire?
living life, huh?
Yeah, pretty much, man. But to be honest, yeah, since I've been retired, man, I just try to stay busy.
Right.
With the kids, they're growing up. Trying to stay busy as far as playing golf. Like I enjoy the
Yeah.
game of golf right now. Um, Trying to stay busy in any way I can help the youth. So I'm actually doing some little training on the side as well as going into my second year of high school coaching football, man.
Oh,
So
that's dope, man.
yeah, man, it's just been really a blessing for me to just, make that transition pretty smoothly, just trying to stay active and stay busy, man. Just, always trying to find just to stay doing something, trying to stay busy.
Right, definitely, most definitely. And I think that's like a huge respect to anybody doing anything, man, for you to be giving back to not only the youth, but to just be working in high school and trying to help these kids and who better to teach them than you, I mean the people you've surrounded yourself with, the things and accolades you've accomplished so far. And to jump right into that, I wanted to ask you straight up. It's a question I've had for you since I knew who you were. Um, you get drafted, you go to the Colts and you beat the Chicago Bears in the Super Bowl in your rookie year. And that one kind of stung over here on this side. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It stung a little bit. But
Really?
I wanted to ask you on your side of things, what was your big reasoning for coming to Chicago in the first place? What was the big goal into that? Because you go to that Super Bowl champion year with the Colts in your rookie year, you work out your deal and all that. What made Chicago the destination you wanted to play out most of your career in?
Well, just to piggyback off, man, that Super Bowl run my rookie year, and then having to play in another Super Bowl in 2009, I believe, 2010 season, and losing to New Orleans. I mean, those was amazing feelings. I just think I fell into a great situation with being drafted by the Colts, and having that opportunity to play with a whole bunch of greats over there in Indianapolis, and have a chance of playing in two Super Bowls, and being a part of it. So when that chapter of my life was done, man, and I had the opportunity to move on, I really didn't know what was my next, um, you know, team, or if I was gonna have another opportunity. I mean, I had a few teams that might be interested, as far as like Pittsburgh Steelers,
Right.
Chicago being one as well. But me and my agent, man, we thought that the Chicago fit was probably the best fit for me
Mm-hmm.
and what I do well to kind of prolong my career. And I think that's what, the factors that we took. And there wasn't a whole lot of money out there. The market really wasn't as high for me, which I understand. But I think, you had to take what was the best fit to what I do well. And at the time, Chicago Bears in the Munster Midway, playing that Tampa 2 style defense with Lovey Smith, I felt like was one of my strong points, and I can go in there right away and kind of help contribute on special teams as defense as much as I can. So that opportunity presented itself, and I made the best of it.
Most definitely, man. And to add on to that, you mentioned that the market and everything, it wasn't too huge at that time, especially for defensive players at that moment. But for me, you come to the Bears, and then the 2012 season happens, and you just franchise record, you just killing it. And you're being a part of this system with Charles Tillman, Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, et cetera, et cetera. We can go on and on.
Right,
But
right.
for that season, how special was that, especially with the market not really taking that huge of a chance on you, and then to do this historic season? What was that like? What went into that? How did you prepare for that season?
I mean, everything just playing out the way it's supposed to, man. And Chicago really just gave me like I think a 2-year deal, and it was prove it years. So every year I had to prove it. So I just kept that mantra, man. I kept that mentality, and knowing that, if this don't work, I don't know what's next for me. So, prove it every year that this is where you belong. You're a great fit here, and let everything play out for itself. So, those first 2 years was good and solid, but it still wasn't solid enough to solidify a long-term deal. And I
Right.
think I just went into that 2011 2012 all season with a pretty much chip on my shoulder, knowing that this is where you belong, man, and you enjoy here. It's fun. So I just worked my tail off that all season because prior to the year before that, I had a solid year, but I just didn't get the takeaways that coach
Right.
literally preached about. So
Yeah.
it was one of those up and downs where, Tim, you starting, I don't know, this and that. So made it throughout that year, but going into that off season, I knew that I had to just, believe and trust in taking this ball away because that's just what our defense pride on. So I just worked tremendously hard in the all season about catching the ball. Um, I just had so much confidence going into it. I had a great all season, and not knowing it was going to turn out to be one of my best years in 2012, leading the league in interceptions. But that's to go to show, man. Like all the hard work that you put in, it's going to pay off at some point, and just so happened that was the year, and it just kind of took off from there.
Right, most definitely. And and it's not like, one of those careers where it's like, oh, he was just a fan favorite. I mean, we're talking 137 games played, 20 interceptions, all team pro, two-time Pro Bowler, two-time Super Bowl, one-time Super Bowl champion. I mean, yeah, I know you're not trying to toot your own horn, but let's not act like you was no scrub, all right?
Nah, I agree with you, man. I mean, it's been a blessing, bro. Like, man, I be talking to you know, people about it all the time, man. And it's just my story has kind of been one of those stories that you could write a book about it, man. I just been one of
Right,
those dogs, having the last scholarship offers to University of Georgia, but being the first one drafted out of my class, and then going in the second round and just going into a great situation and winning my Super Bowl my rookie year. And then, having an opportunity to go to Chicago and just making the best of it, being two-time Pro Bowler. And like you said, you threw all the stats out there, man. So it's just one of those things. I don't really toot my own horn, like you said, but it's just been a tremendous blessing for
right.
me, these opportunities that I had and making the best of them opportunities. And that's just, one of the things I always proud on, man. And I'm still, doing that to this day. So I'm very
Definitely.
thankful, man. It's just been one of those rides and them journey that I enjoy riding. I'm gonna continue to ride this thing on out.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you on that too. You talk about the journey, you talk about the story. For me, I'm 5'8". I as well. I play DB. You were someone I always looked up to. You were someone I always tried to mimic your game. Um,
Um,
Obviously, didn't get me too far, but I was always putting in that work. I wanted to ask you, with these seasons, 9 interceptions in a single season, you have all these great games. For you, with your work ethic, we all know, how hard you work, but when you face someone 2 times a year, like a Calvin Johnson, who's 6'5", literally made out of like a chemistry lab, something crazy like that, one of
right.
those Trevor Lawrence type guys, how do you prepare for playing against guys like that? And like, what is that mindset? Is it kind of just, you taking everything that, you've strived for and just putting it all out on the field? Or is there certain things you look at going into those games?
Well, you have to do a little bit of all that, man. I'm gonna tell you right now. Don't get it twisted. Now, playing with a guy like Charles Tillman took a lot of pressure off me.
Right.
So, Charles he guarded the more bigger, taller guys we match up well against, and I was more the quicker, faster receiver. So we kind of, we balance off each other well. But I've faced a lot of these tall guys, 6'3" guys, to where it's a size advantage. I played against Randy Moss when he was hitting his prime over there in New England.
Right.
So, but for me, it was just always a competition. It was just always compete. You know what you're gonna face during that week, so you try to put yourself in position, the best position possible to be to go up there and compete against these guys. You know, you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, but it's all about competing when you face in front of that guy. It's just time to go. There's nothing else to think about. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
I think that's what kind of prepared me to having this 10, my 10-year career, successful career in the NFL. Is that I always was the underdog. You know, I wasn't the
Right.
biggest guy. You know how we are. You got these big prototype receivers, but you got a
Yeah.
5'8" corner, but you just gotta have that dog and you just gotta have that tenacity. You got to always compete, even if they do catch the ball. You got to be scrappy. It's something. It's something I have that they don't have. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I
You
feel you.
God given ability, but it's just this grit that I'm used to because I've always had to be that way coming up, man. And so I just apply that through my whole 10 years, man. It's just like, hey, I ain't grown no more.
Right.
So I got to use what got me here, and that's my speed, my quickness, and my grit to be able to compete with anybody I line up in front of.
Most definitely, most definitely. And it's huge respect to that. It's one of those, like, I don't know how much deeper you fall into basketball, but Chicago had Jimmy Butler. We have guys like that, you know, on paper you might look at him and be like, who is this guy? But it's that dog mentality. It's that grinding for every extra yard. It's that kind of guy that, that makes Chicago Bears defense. And to add into that with Charles Tillman, I just wanted to ask you, you already talked about, like what it meant, taking a break off you, and how you worked so well together. But are you still in relations with Charles Tillman? Are you still, good friends? Like, what was that relationship like with him throughout your 5 years in Chicago?
Man, to be honest with you, yeah, me and Charles, we might still talk maybe twice a week. Uh, thankful to social media, it's a lot easier than just, direct phone calls because you got family and
Right.
kids and this and that. So social media definitely has been keeping us in contact because I follow him, he followed me. If anything that we think was funny, we'll pass along. So Charles has been like a real big brother to me ever since I met him in Chicago, man. If y'all haven't met Charles and all the film that y'all seen, he's a big playful cat. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
he's that big brother mentality. So I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot about being a pro. I learned a lot about being a man, a father, all that. So he's that big brother, and he's still, peanut to me to this day. Like we talk, twice a week, man. And like I said, we just always laughing about something on social media and just always weighing in, talking stuff. So man,
Right.
that relationship has still been pretty good, pretty strong, man, and I'm thankful for it.
That's awesome, dude. And I wanted to ask, like that Bears culture, when you guys we hadn't seen it in a long time. After you left, Peanut left, went to Carolina, Brian retired. What was
Yeah,
that culture like? Like, what was the feeling in the Bears locker room? Because, every year, whether, Jay was injured or whatever we had going on, with the offensive coordinators, we knew that Bears defense, we were contenders. We were in it. We were in it to win it. We were the dogs. I mean, what was that like? As a fan, I'm watching it and I could feel it. So for you, it's probably 10 times better when you're surrounded by all these Hall of Famers.
yeah, man, you hit it right on the head, man. That culture during that time was amazing. So what you saw on game day on Sunday was like that the other 6 days during the week in the locker room, man. We just gel so well together. Brian might do these gathering at his homes to where majority defensive players, of course, offensive guys would show up, little sprinkles here, but it was majority defensive guys, but just because of the camaraderie we had. If Lack didn't do a gathering, it was Briggs that did a gathering, man. And it was just
Right.
all good times to where we would just have a great time, get ready for, just enjoy each other, that camaraderie. And then that was outside the locker room. But then you have in the locker room where we just played these games after practice, man, you know,
Right.
just made up stuff, but it was just all fun. Even sometimes on a Friday or Saturday when practice was short, we'd be on the sideline, we might play some charades or you know what I mean? Like this is
Yeah.
just when offense is going through their period, we on the sideline, we'll play charades anyway, just to keep that camaraderie going, just like enjoy what we did each and every day at practice. But when we hit that field, we knew it was about business. And it was just fun, man. Those 5 years that I was there, the four that I was able to play with those guys, it was unbelievable experience with, being Brian Urlacher being, the captain of that defense, but he was the main one that played just as much as us. Like he enjoyed what we had going. And, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? You could see that on Sunday. So that time, you know, those 4 years, man, was amazing. And that's why that culture at that time was the defense, you know. And that was the mindset. That was Monsters of the Midway.
Right.
It just, to me, it kind of just changed over time. And it all went downhill for me when, you know, we didn't get Urlacher didn't resign.
Right.
Mark Trestman became my head coach. Briggs, you know, he was done. Charles, he left. So it just kind of dwelled. The culture just switched. It changed. I mean, yeah, Father Time is a mug, and I get that. I understand that. But for the culture that you've had in Chicago for so long, I just didn't understand why you would just all of a sudden make a switch. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you got to bring those guys in, other guys that knew the culture, so you kind of keep up where it left off. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you know how to add those pieces. Hell, for me to come in and fit right well with them was like you knew what was needed, the type of guys that were needed. So why not continue that going and just add pieces to keep that culture going, and hopefully you can make that Super Bowl run again.
Right.
Because
See, I kind
that's
of feel that same way right now with, you know, I don't know if you're still keeping up with them, but cutting Kyle Fuller to get Andy Dalton was one of those kind of decisions where, you know, you kind of understand it, but it's one of those things where, you know, Kyle's a dog, no question. And when he goes over to
absolutely.
Denver, it's gonna be something real. It's gonna be something nasty.
Yeah, man. That's why, you know, I love Kyle when he came in the game. Kyle was ahead of the game, man. Even though, you know, when Kyle came in his rookie year, Kyle was like a fifth year vet. And I
Right.
mean, that's just, you know, testimony to his upbringing, and what he known from the game. So I agree with you, man. Like Kyle was an access, the final, you know, he tried to keep it together. I know with Fangio coming in there when in Chicago, that kind of changed a lot, but it still was a defensive minded team. And
Right.
you know, when Kyle leaving, I thought that was, I mean, it's a business. I get it, but like you said, Kyle is a dog, man. Like Kyle is a real good football player. I think he's one of the top 5 corners in this league, if
Oh,
not top
most
10.
definitely.
You know, and for y'all to, you know, to make that switch. I mean, I get it. You got a young kid that's on the opposite side that's
Right.
playing pretty good football. But if any chance that you got to keep that foundation on that
Oh,
defense
right.
cornerstone, I think, you know, you kind of wanna keep that, you know, just to have that culture still there
Right.
as being Monsters of the Midway, this grind, this gritty defensive mentality. You know, you still got Khalil Mack, you know, but you still got to add. I think, you know, with you know, Smith in the middle of the field, there's some
Oh,
pieces
dude.
there. But the cornerstone is
That's
kind of,
baby Brian right there.
yeah, you know what I mean. I get it, and well, he a Georgia boy, so that's
Oh,
why, you
yeah.
know. But yeah, man, I still follow you guys, man. But you know, you kind of lost me.
Oh,
With,
no, I completely understand. I get you. Don't worry. I've almost
yeah,
jumped a few times, but I'm holding on, man.
yeah, I
But
got it.
it's
That's
you
all
hit it
you
on the
got.
head too. It's one of those things where it's like, for me, obviously, you know, I mean, I know you probably don't follow it, but my podcast 3 weeks ago, I said Justin Fields is the guy that we need to draft. And I'm not even gonna lie to you, a part of me was like, no way it's gonna happen. It was just, you know, me just trying to like be optimistic. But
Right.
for me, you get this mindset where it's like you already had Nick Foles, you could have kept Kyle and got Justin. So it's one of those things where it's like you really didn't need Andy. I respect Andy. I understand why they made the move they did because you didn't know if you were gonna hit on Justin. You know what I mean?
Right.
But looking back on it now, it's one of those things where it's like, man, we would have been in such a crazy spot if we had Justin coming in, Kyle and Jalen Johnson. You know, it would have been so tight. But it leads me to my next question. You kind of brought it up, the culture switch. I was wondering if you'd be willing to talk about, you know, with Lovey versus Tressman. I know you'd never talk down on anybody or how the culture changed on that, but if you just wanted to like give an examples on like when you started noticing, like, was it an immediate impact with, you know, the transition from Lovey? And I know you went back to Tampa, and I didn't know if a part of that was because, you know, Lovey was headed to Tampa, and what led to that decision for your final year?
Well, hey man, first of all, this is a podcast. I'm retired, so I'm gonna always keep it 100 with you right now. Anyway, so yeah, I mean that whole transition switch kind of threw me for a loop. You know, everybody when Lovey got fired, man. I mean, I built the relationship with Lovey, but I can only imagine for the guys that had Lovey for 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that thing hit Peanut hard. Like I ain't never seen Peanut hit so hard, and like Briggs and Brian. Like that thing hit them boys hard. I didn't have that relationship, but I felt it. But I felt it through the players more than anything
Right.
because I was building that relationship with Lovey. You know what I'm saying? The success that he had, but the success that he had with the guys. You know what I mean on that
Yeah.
defensive side. So that was a tough transition for him, and then bringing in a guy like Tressman. So now you kind of switch from it being that mentality, defensive mentality, to trying to put it to your offensive guys now. It didn't really fit well with the locker room,
Right.
and um, for me, I'm just here. Like I'm trying to fit in. I'm trying to find my way. You know what I mean? Like I got success under Lovey's style of defense. So this is what works for me and the rest of these guys. So you started seeing the switch, Lovey, and it trickled down to all the guys. And then Trustman coming in, having Cutler, having B Marshall, you know, that
It was nasty.
there was like, something's happening here.
Right.
And it's not really fitting well with the locker room. And I knew it was a time when, you know, Brian didn't come back and we had to move Briggs to middle linebacker.
Right.
And it was Briggs and Peanut and myself. So we was like the three cornerstones left. Uh, and you could just feel the energy changing. Like Tressman would just get on us about how we practice or how we enjoy practice. And what we was already used to doing that worked for us. Like, hold on, Tressman, like this is what we do. This is
Right.
how, and we're gonna produce for you. So when Tressman started to try to change that, and then I knew it was a time when Tressman called me into this office, and it being training camp, and he pulled us out of a team meeting, at a defensive team meeting, like, hey, Tressman want to see you upstairs. And I'm like, who, me? So I'm thinking like, I must be did something wrong. I must be in trouble. But he called me in the office to talk about Briggs and Peanut being the leaders and how they're leading this team, and it's not adequate to what he was expecting, and he wanted me to kind of weigh in on that or how he figured he
Right.
should handle that. And I'm like, hold on, trust, I'm not the guy for that. Like these guys got years, like they're
Right.
ranked, like they rank. So it's them, then me. But for you to come to me and try to make me the focus points, let me know that all right, things are kind of changing here, and I see it, but I don't like it because I don't that guy to kind of be the guy. Like,
Right.
nah, I need these guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I think you need to just let these guys do what they do. They are all pros and probably future Hall of Famers for a reason. So you might need to let this one here
Just
just
let it
go ahead
ride.
and let it handle itself. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so that whole transition definitely, that's when it kind of just trickled on down, man. And I knew it was things were gonna, kind of take a different shape, and I knew it was my time. So yeah, I went down there to Lovey because that's what I knew down there in Tampa, thinking that the culture was going to be the same, but of course it was a different place,
Right.
not the same guys, and everybody's just, it was a whole different atmosphere, and it's like, nah, this ain't for me. So that's
Right.
when I call it quits.
Yeah, nah, completely understandable. And I also think like a big part of that too is the difference that is the Bears. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like Tressman comes in and is thinking, oh, well, this team is obviously ran by the quarterback. And it's obviously, the heart and soul is of the offense, like, up in Green Bay with Rodgers and all of them, and with Brady and so many others. But with the Bears, it's always been, whether it's Dick Butkus, Khalil Mack, you guys, and it's always been that kind of narrative. And I kind of wanted to ask you about that. Like for you, the locker room, was it everybody, kind of like together? Like, with I always know, like, they always say, I didn't know if you had any issues with, but they say Jay Cutler kind of kept to himself as the leader. And, so the offense was kind of on their own thing. You had Anthony Adams in there, who was obviously lovable to everybody. But they say like guys like Marshall, they kind of just kept to themselves. Was there like a different shape to that than it was in the earlier years? Like, did you notice like, there were issues starting with Bennett and so many others, Forte being ready to retire?
I mean, that's pretty accurate, man. Definitely pretty accurate. You know, all those guys I'm real cool with. Jay, it's pretty accurate. Everybody know Jay. He was to himself. Didn't really do a lot with the team as far as from what I know. And like I say, I could speak on just as fact of how the defense just always interact. Like we was always together. Like we always did things with each other, and it wasn't just defense. We had the Devin Hesters. We had Johnny Knox that come hang out with us, and whoever else that from the Eric Weems. Like those are all my guys to this day. So from the B Marshalls, he did his own thing. Those guys were just a little bit different than everybody else. So that was definitely, you could see that, but it's understandable. Like everybody's not gonna be the same. Everybody have, you know, different people that they hang around with or
Right.
outside of football, which is understandable. But
Definitely.
it worked for us because that was the camaraderie from the Anthony Adams, being in the training room. Like it was always fun, fun, fun. And outside of the locker room was fun. So like I say, man, when that whole switch, from Levy leaving, that thing made a whole 360, you know what I mean? Like, all right, Jay, you the guy. Like,
Yeah.
ain't no Brian Urlacher no more. Like, you the guy. Brandon, you the guy. Like,
Right.
so I was like, okay, this is gonna be interesting.
Right. For me, it was, and no shade at all. I loved him as a player. But the moment I realized that it was kind of it was when I don't know if you remember when Martellus Bennett kind of slammed Kyle Fuller, and then
Yeah.
like and the news just totally like over spoke about it, and it just kind of made that whole locker room toxic, and you kind of just got that vibe of like, there's gonna be a couple guys that make it out of this and everybody else is gonna get shipped off. But I don't want to keep you too long. I know you're very busy, but I just want to ask a couple more questions.
Now you
Um,
good, bro.
this new vibe of the Bears, this new era, you finally see something we haven't seen in so long. I don't know if you followed the draft. We got two hogs and offensive tackles. They cut Leno today. Justin Fields getting brought in. We got a new running back, a new wide receiver. What is your outlook on the Chicago Bears? Like, how are you feeling about it from the outside looking in? Do you think this is going to be something different of a narrative changer from the monsters of the Midway to an actual like productive offense?
Well, I'm very optimistic about it, man. Like I mean, I follow y'all, but I don't follow enough because well, I do. I mean, my oldest son, he's a big, huge Chicago Bear fan, man.
Yeah.
He's a Eddie Jackson guy,
Oh,
man. He's
definitely.
this guy. So I follow you guys enough, man, and from what I've been seeing, you guys follow the guys that you drafted more than I do. Justin Fields, I think might be a good part. As far as what you guys need to give the fan base a more sense of comfort. You know what I mean? And I think you were always close, but you was missing a few pieces. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
yeah, but Green Bay has always just been that hump to kind of get over. We can destroy Detroit, Minnesota. Yeah, you know what I mean? So getting that division is the biggest thing. Like, what do you have what it takes to get that division? And I think now having that quarterback, hopefully, it will give you put you up to be the favorite. The defense still, I think it's going to be solid with Khalil Mack if you get that production back out of him. But I'm a big optimistic guy. Like, it's on paper, but can you put it together? You know what I mean? Like, can you put it together to kind of make this run for it? And that's just what I'm waiting to see, man. And I'm just one of those guys like, okay, you moved up to go get this guy. Everybody's excited about it, but now can you make it work?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, can you really make this work? And I think it's going to be up to the offensive, defensive coordinator, coaching staff to kind of put these guys in position to make it work. And I think the GM, they're going to do what they got to do, hopefully, to put those guys in, put the right guys in the system to make it work. But now it's just all about, all right, it might take a year, but we need to see progression. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
See some kind of
Definitely.
progression so you guys are heading in the right direction. So
Right.
I'm excited for you. You know what I'm saying? I want to see success for my guys still being there, from the Georgia boys that's playing there still, from the young guys. Y'all got Justin Fields coming in there, and I want him to have a successful career. And I know how Chicago fan base can be now, You can love a guy, then you can hate him. You know what I'm
Oh yeah,
saying?
in a snap, in an instant.
Oh my God, like I don't know if he's ready for that type of
I hope
mark,
so, man.
but at the end of the day, he's a young kid. You know what I'm saying? You want to be able to surround the man with as much positive energy as he can get. And of course, by that coming, you got to win games. If you ain't winning games, you got to understand it comes with the territory. But that's why I wanted to be a good situation for him. I wanted to work out for him, for Justin first, and also for the city of Chicago, man.
Definitely. And I wanted your thoughts on this because this is going to be our third defensive coordinator since 2018, which is insane to me. Chuck Pagano very well. You were very close with him, I would imagine. You would understand his game, his defense with the Colts in Indianapolis. But for that to have from Vic Fangio, to Chuck, and now to Sean Desai, how do you feel about Sean? Do you know about him? I know he was the safeties coordinator for the Bears for a very long time, the DB's coach. And I was just wondering, how you felt about him, taking over the reins without really any resume.
Oh, well, that's news to me, man. I didn't really know who became the defensive coordinator. I didn't know it was a safety guy, and now he's calling the defense. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I'm not too much familiar with him or what style of defense he does. Even with Chuck, like I didn't play with Chuck. Like, um, I mean, Chuck in Indianapolis, I didn't have him. I came over to Chicago, and then I had,
Oh, right.
yeah, I had my guy Rod Marinelli. Like, that's my
Yeah.
dog. Rod, and then Nick Fangio. So I played for Nick for about a year. But the new guy, Sean, I don't really know him like that, or what style of defense he playing. But I don't think you can switch up the defense with the guys that you already have, from Khalil Mack, and then having the secondary playing the way they're playing. So if it's anybody that's coming in that same regime, I
Right.
think, I don't think it's going to fall off too much. Now, if you got a completely different system, now you need to be worried.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean? But if it's under that same system, then you
Had
just kind
John Fox look a little scary.
yeah, and John Fox. Oh yeah, he was a head coach for a while too. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
But
So
I just got one more question for you. It's the big one. It's probably the most important one for this podcast. We all want to know, what's the future looking like for Tim Jennings? How's everything going to be going? What's the rest of the story looking like?
man, the future. I think the future is bright, man. I think I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying life. Uh, man, with the family, enjoying that. Like I said, man, as long as I could play some golf, good weather. If I got some good weather down south,
I bet.
yeah, and as long as I find ways to, make the youth better. You know what I mean? Like my story, I feel like it's been put on me for a reason, and I like to share it. You know what I mean? So that's why I enjoy high school coaching right now.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying college coaching might not be, in the future here and there, could be, but right now the youth is where I think I could reach my most potential at. And I'm enjoying that, man. And that gives me a passion. That gets me out the house every day. And that lets that I'm here helping and doing my part and the reason why I'm here. So for me, I think the future is bright, man. Um, I'm enjoying life, man. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And, I'm just riding this wave, man.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
just riding this wave as it comes.
Well, it was an honor talking to you, man, and thank you for coming on the show. If you guys haven't guessed it by this time, this has been Tim Jennings, Chicago Bears legend. Hopefully one day a future Hall of Famer, 10-year veteran. Thank you for being on the show, man. It's been an honor.
Hey, man, Mike, thanks for having me, man. And hey, bear down, bro.
Bear down, man.